Hey guys, good evening. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. I know it's been a little crazy. We've been doing the nights. I know we have to definitely get back out of the nights and back in the mornings because I'm back in school next week, and nights just doesn't work out for me when I'm in school. All right, guys, welcome to Inspirations for Your Life. Today is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025, and a happy note to reveal for you guys. I did finish my first semester, very happy with my first semester and my A grades, and really happy that I'll be starting my next semester very soon, which is actually coming up this Monday, which is actually May 12th. All right. By the way, our master topic for the week, which we launched the other day, is living with purpose, standing strong, leading with heart. We're on series 4. And the granular for this evening is serve to lead, show 4, series 19. Excuse me, serve to lead, series 4, show 19, episode number 4. So, if any of you guys are hungry, thirsty, or a little parched, feel free to run to the kitchen, get yourself something hot, something cold, something delicious and yummy, whether it's healthy, whether it's sweet, whether it's tart or not. That's totally up to you. So, please go ahead and do that. Really would appreciate you guys coming on back so we can kick off this show here. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, just so you guys know, leadership isn't about power. It's about a purpose. In tonight's episode of Inspirations for Your Life, I'm going to explore what it really means to lead by serving, something a lot of people miss in this world. They're always trying to take, but they're not willing to give. The strongest leaders of our time aren't always the loudest or the ones in charge. Often they are the ones behind the scenes, lifting others up, motivating them, creating opportunities, and building communities that will thrive. When we serve to lead, we shift from an ego mentality to an empathy mentality, from command to collaboration. So please join me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur, podcast host, and coach. And I'll dive deep with you into 8 transformational truths about service based leadership that can redefine the way you inspire, empower, and grow those around you. But I want to caution you, ladies and gentlemen, just hearing me say these things is not going to be enough. You're going to have to take these steps and actually enact them. It's not going to magically just happen like osmosis. So I hope that you will seriously take these lessons and decide to apply them to your life if you want change. So, number 1, guys, leadership through service. True leadership begins with a mindset of service. When you prioritize the needs of others, your team, your clients, your community, well, you build this foundation of trust and credibility around all of that. Serving doesn't mean being passive or submissive. It means leading with a purpose and true humility. It means asking this: how can I help you succeed? How can I help you do better? How can I help you understand? Rather than, what can you do for me? What's in it for me? Right? There are 2 different radio stations out there, proverbially: WIIFM, what's in it for me, and WIIFU. Now, that's not a bad word. WIIFU stands for what's in it for you, right? So if I'm always listening to WIIFM, what's in it for me, that's going to come off very selfish. So I have to have that pivot where I think about you. All right. That's important, guys. Really, really important. This shift will allow you as a leader to create an environment where people are valued and truly inspired, not just directed or micromanaged, which is really bad. When service leads the way, people will follow with heart, passion, and obligation, not because they have to, ladies and gentlemen, but because they want to. That's a real golden nugget. And I hope that you will start leading with that way of humility, understanding that it's about listening to the radio station of WIIFU, and that's what's in it for you, instead of WIIFM, what's in it for me. Number 2, influence, not authority. Real leaders don't rely on authority to get results. They earn their influence through consistency, integrity, and example. Influence is magnetic. It draws people in because it's rooted in respect and authenticity. Authority may compel compliance, but influence inspires action. When people follow you because they want to, not because they have to, you unlock a true gem of leadership. Influence is cultivated by how you treat people in those quiet moments. You know, the ones when nobody else is really saying anything, how you handle these challenges, and how you live your values out loud. I've said before, we're all going to get different cards. Some are good, some are bad, some are mediocre, and they're going to happen at different points in your life. It's not what cards you're being dealt. That's not what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this many times. It's about how you decide to show up in this world. And what I mean by that is, how do you respond to these situations, right? The way you respond will allow your mind to basically permeate other possibilities into your life. That is really, really key. Your attitude, ladies and gentlemen, will determine your altitude for success. Number three, listening as a leadership tool. Listening is one of the most underutilized leadership skills and one of the most powerful, by the way. When leaders truly listen, they create a space for voices to be heard and for innovation to emerge. It's more than just being quiet while someone else speaks, it's being present, curious, and open to learning. Leaders who choose to listen make better decisions, resolve conflicts more effectively, and build stronger relationships. It sends a powerful message. Quote, you matter. And when people feel heard, they are more likely to engage, contribute, and trust you. Number four, empathy builds trust. Now, I know you've heard me say this many times and you've heard other people say this, but it is really the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Empathy builds trust. Empathy is the bridge between leadership and human connection. It allows you to see beyond the surface to understand what others are experiencing and feeling. When leaders lead with empathy, they build emotional safety, foster inclusivity, create environments where vulnerability is welcomed. Trust grows when people feel understood. By simply acknowledging someone's emotions or challenges, you show them they're not alone. Empathy doesn't weaken leadership, it makes it sustainable, authentic, and deeply impactful. How do you lead? Do you lead because you've got to carry a big stick? That's not really a leader. That's leading with a threat of force, and nobody will respond to that very well for long. Number five, a legacy over ego will always prevail, right? A legacy over an ego will always prevail, but it's not something that you're going to get overnight. I want to be truthful about that. Leadership that's rooted in ego is going to be short-lived, but leadership that's built on a legacy lasts generations. When you focus on your legacy, you lead with intention, vision, and selflessness. It's not about being in the spotlight. It's about creating opportunities for others to shine in. Ego asks, how will this benefit me? Right? WIIFM, what's in it for me, radio station? But legacy asks a different question. What will I leave behind? How will this help others? That's WIIFU, what's in it for you? Great leaders aren't remembered just for their titles or achievements, but for the lives they've touched and the people they have mentored and the values they uphold. Number six, guys, empowering others. Leadership isn't about doing it all yourself. It's about helping others rise to the occasion. Empowering others means believing in their potential, giving them the tools to succeed, and stepping back so they can shine. It requires trust, patience, and a willingness to let go of control. When you empower someone, you not only, let's say, just you're not just delegating, you're investing in their growth. And when people feel empowered, they choose to take ownership, innovate, exceed your expectations, and really surprise you in a good way. The best leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. All right, that's a very important one. I think people think that if you are a leader, okay, then, there can't be another leader, but there absolutely can. Leaders love to work with other leaders. Okay. Number seven, leadership without those fancy titles. You don't need a title to lead. In fact, some of the most powerful leaders are the ones who lead from within through attitude, initiative, and true heart. Leadership without titles is about influence, not position. It's about showing up, speaking up, and stepping up regardless of your role. Okay. I have to ask you something. If you were given a title in your work and the next day that title was stripped from you, would you suddenly forget how to lead? If you did, then you weren't really a leader. You were acting out of authority and not out of being genuine. As I said, it's about showing up, speaking up, and stepping up regardless of your role that you either have been given, okay, or was assigned. There's something different when you earn a title versus when a title is just given to you, right? Anyone can model integrity, solve problems, and solve issues, and also support their peers. But when leadership becomes a behavior rather than just a position or a title, an entire culture begins to shift. You don't have to wait for permission to lead, just choose to lead. Number eight, a service driven culture is the key. When service is at the heart of a culture, everything changes. Teams collaborate more, morale increases, and people feel genuinely connected to a purpose greater than themselves. In other words, WIIFU, what's in it for you? A service driven culture isn't about being nice. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing the humanity in every interaction, rewarding acts of contribution, and encouraging growth through shared support. Leaders who foster a service first and have that kind of mindset shape workplaces that don't just survive, they thrive. Let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. In life, do you want to just survive or do you want to thrive? So you might say, John, well, I don't know what the difference is. I mean, I'm happy to survive. Yes, you are. Surviving means just getting by. Surviving means that, you're really not harnessing your true potential. Okay. You're just doing what you need to do to get by. That's no way to live, guys. No way to live. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, but I think it is important to understand that. All right. And I think if you understand that, you might just realize what is different. Okay. And if you can think about what is different, why it's different, then maybe you'll act differently. So this is the part of the show where I want to basically give you some personal lessons based on each point. Basically, one for each point. And the reason I want to do this is it'll help solidify and help give you an example of what it will be, right? If you can envision something, it's a lot easier to follow it, right? And I hope that will inspire you to become a better you. Now, again, all these things are not like you push a button and they just occur. I'm sorry, guys. That's not how life works. If you're living for life to just survive, then that's you. And you're going to miss a lot of opportunities only because you want to survive. Now, of course, I want you to survive, but I would hope that you want to do more than just survive. I would hope that you want to give it your all and that you want to thrive, right? Number one, leadership through service. I remember the moment I realized leadership wasn't about being in front. It was about being behind others, lifting them up. I've had teams and members struggling with projects, and instead of giving them orders, I asked, how can I support you? Okay. That small shift transformed our relationship and the outcome exponentially in a positive direction. From that point forward, I saw service not as an act of sacrifice, but as the most powerful leadership tool that I had in my arsenal. And when we lead through service, people don't just follow, they feel seen, supported, compelled, and motivated to go further because it comes from within. It is authentic, it's not phony. I think that's very important. Number two, guys, influence, not authority. One of the most pivotal lessons I've learned is that shouting the loudest doesn't make you a leader. Might seem like that if you're at a police scene or an emergency scene, but that doesn't make you a real leader. I've led teams where I had zero official authority, yet people gravitated toward my example and my consistency. Influences came when I stood by my values, my true core, and I stayed accountable and treated others with respect even when no one was watching. Remember, do the right thing, not just when somebody's watching, but even when they're not. It taught me that authority may be granted, but influences are earned day by day, choice by choice. So, understanding that you too can make these changes when you know that it's about how you show up in the world. Your influence has to come from your integrity, your true core. Number three, guys, listening as a leadership tool. I think this one baffles so many people because they're like, oh, I listen all the time. Well, if you listen all the time, then why is it that you're not getting the point across? I think that comes from a lot of reasons. And the reason it comes from is, you know what I'm going to say. It is the fact that, well, you're not living from integrity. You're living from something else. I think that's an important point. And so we have to first figure out who we are in this world. If we just show up and we don't know, that could be a problem. And if we just expect people to do things for us and we don't really have a compassionate bone in our body, well, we're going to lose their interest very quickly. I thought leadership meant having all the answers at every moment. But it was in the moments of uncertainty that I learned the value of being silent by truly listening to concerns, frustrations, and the challenges that other people had. Ideas sort of just dropped into my head that were discovered not only to be better solutions, but stronger bonds. One day I sat with a frustrated colleague and simply listened without interrupting. The shift in their energy was transparently, positively immediate. I had solved their problem, but I had also validated their voice. See, that's when I realized listening doesn't just solve problems, it builds people. People don't always want you to solve their problems. They want you to hear them, be a sounding board, right? I think that's the point that a lot of people don't get. Well, I really didn't do anything. Yes, you did. You kept your mouth shut and you took the genuine interest in someone else, which was learn a lot, ladies and gentlemen, from Mr. Dale Carnegie, who I've taken his courses before. I think that's something that a lot of the world has missed. Empathy will build trust time and time again. I once managed a team going through a tough time personally. Instead of demanding the same output, I paused to ask, how are they doing? I offered some flexibility and some compassion. That small act of empathy turned into a deep seed of trust, which grew. And surprisingly, their performance improved. They told me, quote, you saw me as a person, not just as a worker. That moment reminded me empathy isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It turns transactions into relationships and stress into support. So you might say, John, is there a line between boss and worker and friend? So, yes, and there is a thing of not crossing it. You've got to still have that respect there. But if you find that you're being friendly and the person is starting to, let's say, step over the line or abuse you, well, then you've got to get a little more assertive. But showing a little bit of compassion and letting people know that they are a person and not just a worker. Maybe they come into the office and maybe you see that they are totally stressed out and they're normally a great worker. You say, hey, can you come to my office for a moment? Come to the office, tell me, I see you've been stressed the last couple of days. May I help with something? Is it something you'd like to talk to me about? And sometimes they will, And sometimes they might just tell you that they're going through a personal issue and they're just looking for some space. So I think you've got to be very cognizant of what's going on, not just by what we say in what they say, how they say, and what they don't say. Do you remember the rule? What was it? The 73855 communication rule. Do you remember that rule? So yes, the seventh. It's called the 73855 communication rule, and this is by Mr. Albert Maharabian. And he has said that 7%, which is what we say, the words, so 7% of the message, 38% is how we say it, and 55% is what we don't say. He also said that a lot of our communication actually comes from what? Well, it comes from what we don't say in life, what we don't say. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to grasp, but a lot of our communication is nonverbal, right? Number 5, guys, legacy over an ego. Whenever I mention the word ego, it's like, oh, I get all these people want to tackle me down. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, ego does become a problem. There was a time when I chased the recognition. I thought leadership was about being noticed. But eventually I realized the projects I was most proud of were the ones where others succeeded because I had mentored or encouraged them. I started asking myself an important question like, what impact will outlast this project? What impact can someone else have with my guidance? That question redefined my goals, my aspirations. Now I focus on planting seeds. And my important thing is to see them bloom. Now, some of them may not bloom, but that doesn't mean that I stop planting. Because, see, the greatest leaders aren't remembered for the applause. They're remembered for the ripple effects that they cause. So my lesson in this is that you need to keep planting seeds every single day of your life. They may not come to a harvest, okay? But many of them will. And if you truly are planting with integrity, more of them will definitely pop up to surprise you with some pretty powerful blessings. Number 6, guys, empowering others. You know, you might be saying to me, John, I don't want to empower others. What is that going to do for my life? Well, empowering others does a couple things. 1, gets people to feel good about themselves. 2, when they feel good about themselves, they want to take the initiative before you have already asked. They want to overplease you. And I think that's a really good thing. One of the most rewarding experiences that I have had the privilege of witnessing was when I mentored someone who doubted their own abilities. I didn't just give them advice. I gave them space, opportunities, and instilled the belief in them. Watching them grow into a confident leader reminded me that true leadership is not about being the star. It's about lighting the way for others. Empowerment, ladies and gentlemen, multiplies impact. And when we give others permission to rise, we create a cycle of leadership that continues to thrive many times, even when we're not there. Number 7, leadership without titles. I know so many people in this world that have to have titles. Before I ever held a formal leadership role, I made a decision to lead where I stood. I volunteered for projects, encouraged my peers in school, and kept my word. Eventually, people started looking to me, not because I had a title, but because I showed up, because I was consistent, because I did what I said, and I cared about people. That experience taught me that leadership is a verb, it's not a noun. You don't wait to be promoted to lead. You lead immediately, and the recognition often follows it. It's not the badge that makes the leader, it's the behavior. So maybe you're doing something, you say, well, gee, I'm not that title yet. The title may come later. And so what if it doesn't? If you become the leader and assume that position, you'll find you'll very soon get that title. Number 8, guys, our last point, and a very important one, and that's service-driven culture. When I led and started my very first company-wide initiative, I focused less on key performance initiatives, the KPIs, right? Key performance indexes, and more on building a culture of service. And so acknowledging wins, encouraging collaboration, and celebrating people, right? That's important. That is really important, right? But too many people get lost in other things. When we acknowledge and we encourage, we can collaborate and we can celebrate together. The result not only did take our productivity and skyrocket it, but it also took morale and really gave it a supercharge. People felt connected instantly, seen and part of something bigger than what we were. That experience proved to me that culture isn't built through rules, it's built through intention. A service driven culture doesn't just perform well, it lives well. That's powerful, guys. Now, I know this show is one that a lot of you probably want to kick under the carpet, like, I don't want to do that because, it's not me. Well, I'm not telling you that you shouldn't do it. I'm telling you that you should only do this if this is in your heart. Some of my final thoughts for this evening are incorporating these 8 principles into your leadership journey will transform not only your team, but your legacy. Serving to lead isn't a strategy, it's a way of being. It's how we unlock human potential, foster connection, and build a future we all can be proud of. The greatest leaders aren't remembered for how many followers they had, but for how many lives they touched, which is why I always say on my show, I want to touch one person's life and change it one at a time. Now, you might say, John, that's not a big goal. Well, to me, it's about quality. And that quality makes the difference, guys, makes the big difference. Really, it does. So be genuine and you'll unlock human potential, right? I think that's really important. And so I invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out believemeachieve.com right after this or any other time. That's believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, of course, inspiring creations, which I know if you take the initiative and follow what I'm saying, showing you, and doing, will definitely impact and improve the quality of your life. And we all know that's what you want. So if you have the ego, lose the ego, all right? It's not going to help you. It's only going to hurt you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Please do check out believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations, and I'll catch you real soon. Good night, everyone.